This is the second in a series of screen capture videos where we're talking about how to write a review paper. So in the last video I had just downloaded this paper, and I've gone through and I've highlighted some things that I thought were were relevant to the review that I'm working on, and I want you to see, just pay special attention here to the vast majority of this review that I decided wasn't important at this point. That wasn't really relevant to what I'm ultimately going to be writing my review about. So let's take a look. Remember, this is a paper where they're first proposing to use social cognitive theory to apply it to careers and academic interests. And it's the academic interests in the early part of careers that I'm really interested in here. So what did I find that was really relevant? Well, they argue here that they are trying to explain the mechanism through which career and academic interests develop. That's good. They're limiting themselves to issues of career entry and to life periods associated with preparation for career choice, which is exactly the time period that we're looking at in getting undergrads involved in a research experience that will impact their choice of a science, tech, engineering, and math, or STEM career. So their framework is relevant to both academic and career behavior. That's good. The rationale is academic choice and success are similar to those important to models of career development. Okay, so that's good. STEM requires academic preparation, that's for sure. And here, self-efficacy is one of the three things they're concentrating on in this monograph. So their framework emphasizes three social cognitive mechanisms particularly relevant to career development. This is the first one, self-efficacy beliefs. And they define it right here, quoting Bandura's 1986 paper, which I'm going to think about picking up. I can find it in the references section. Aspect of social cognitive theory received the most attention is self-efficacy appraisal. Self-efficacy is people's judgments of their capabilities to organize and execute courses of action required to attain designated types of performances. So beliefs about their ability to do stuff. That was my understanding of it too. Here's something I thought was important. Self-efficacy is not a passive static trait. It's not like, locus of control or something, or other personality variables that we think might sort of be set, but it's dynamic. It's specific to particular performance domains, meaning that you can have efficacy in some things and not necessarily in others. They interact complexly with other person behavioral and contextual factors, not synonymous with objectively assessed skills. So believing that you can do something doesn't always line up with your actual ability to do something. In fact, so they've cited two papers here. I've got to go get these papers. Betts and Hackett 81, Lint, Brown, and Larkin 86. Self-efficacy yields only moderate relations with objective ability indices. That means that it doesn't always match up what you think you can do and what objectively we can measure you as being able to do. I can find these in the references section down here, right? I can just look up these papers right here. For example, let's see, that was page 5. Betts and Hackett 81, Lint, Brown, and Larkin 86. Great. Betts and Hackett, I'm just going to circle these so I can come back. Betts and Hackett 81, relationship of career-related self-efficacy expectations to perceived career options in college men and women. And let's see. The other one, I'm just going to find that once more, was Lint, Brown, and Larkin 86. And in here, in the references section, you'll find yourself doing this a lot. Going to the references section, finding out what the actual paper was, Lint, Brown, and Larkin 86, Self-Efficacy and the Prediction of Academic Performance in Perceived Career Options. Kind of a similar title. All right, back to where we were before, page 5. This is the second sort of major component of the theory, is outcome expectations. And we're not measuring that really, but I did circle a couple of things that were relevant. There are many instances in which people may anticipate valued outcomes accruing from a given course of action, but avoid such action if they doubt their capabilities. So you might perceive something to be rewarding, but if you don't think you can do it, then you're not going to do it. But a strong sense of efficacy may sustain efforts even where outcome attainment is uncertain. So if you think you can do it, that may be enough to get you through to at least try. Goals. I want to see if this is relevant at all. It says, what are goals? Goals are ubiquitous. That means they're always found. A generally implicit element of career choice. Career plans, decisions, aspirations, and expressed choices are all goal mechanisms. We're measuring these things. We're actually asking students what their career plans are. Have they decided to go to a graduate program? What do they want to do when they grow up? So that's relevant too. So we've got three things here. Goals, the outcome expectations, and of course self-efficacy. All relevant to our work. That's good. Let's go on down. I thought this was important. Social cognitive theory is a cognitive constructivist approach to career development. Emphasizes cognitive feed-forward as opposed to feedback-only mechanisms, highlighting anticipation, forethought, active construction of meaning in interaction with environmental events. So people are the proactive shapers of the environment. They're not just responding to external forces. So responding to external forces reminds me a lot of Watson and Skinner and the behaviorist movement, and a lot of the early studies that are cited here in this 1994 paper were sort of responses to, or against rather, this strict reflexive sort of way of thinking, particularly about human behavior. All right. Acknowledge complex bidirectional influences between cognition, that's thinking, affect, mood, and behavior. All right. Maybe we'll come back to that later on. Right? Here's their model of developing interests. We think that that's pretty relevant in STEM, right? So we give research experiences to undergraduates. They get interested in research. They want to pursue a career in research. So efficacy is linked to interests and outcome expectations. Let's read a bit about that. They're referring to this path model in the figure. I'm actually not going to spend any time on that yet. I'm just getting background information. Perceptions of efficacy and outcome likelihood figure prominently in the formation of interest. More specifically, likely that people form enduring interest in activities in which they view themselves to be efficacious. That means they think they can do it, and in which they anticipate positive outcomes. That sort of makes sense, but here's some references where they actually measured those things. So I might want to come back to Lint, Larkin, and Brown in '89. Did you notice how we're seeing some of the same people who are writing these papers and citing themselves? It often works that way. Once interests crystallize, it may take very compelling experience to provoke a fundamental reappraisal of career efficacy and outcome beliefs. All right, such occasions seems rare in later life, but they're theoretically possible. Changing life or work circumstances. Some of you guys probably know about that. Require or encourage cultivation of different competencies. So it's a big deal to switch careers, and self-efficacy, reappraising your self-efficacy, revising your confidence about the things you think you can do. Plays a big role in that. Do you notice I'm not writing any of this stuff down? I'm just learning. I'm just reading for information here. Not citing anything yet. Bandura, maybe threshold effect. Moderate self-efficacy may be necessary to develop and sustain interest in activity. Additional increases beyond the threshold might not yield linear increments in interest. In fact, very high levels of efficacy in relation to task demands may actually diminish interest in an activity by removing its challenging quality. We might be seeing this. We get a lot of students who are really high in scientific research self-efficacy coming in. They think they can do everything, and that may sort of remove the challenge in some of the things that we're asking them to do. Next, self-efficacy may not translate into interest unless people expect their activity involvement to be rewarded. An individual with high perceived efficacy, low outcome expectations relative to a given activity may be less likely to develop an enduring interest, since the latter is seen as offering limited potential for reinforcement. So, if you don't expect a reward from the outcome, even if you think you can do it really well, it's unlikely that that will generate interest. Okay, I'm starting to see sort of how they're working efficacy, outcome expectations, and goals together. Let me see if I highlighted anything else in the paper. Lots of stuff that I didn't think was relevant. Here's one more thing. Students selecting an engineering major, okay, so that's science, tech, engineering, and math. Form goals concerning grade performance in the various required courses. Shooting for an A, so this has to do with goals. Shooting for an A in physics helps regulate one's ensuing course behavior. All right. Again, we're not really measuring, well, we are measuring goals in terms of academic plans, so that is kind of relevant. Getting back to the self-efficacy ability correspondence. So they had outlined this in an earlier paragraph, setting us up so we could read about this. This I found was super important. Social cognitive theory assumes that the most facilitative efficacy percepts, that is, the most ideal level of efficacy, it's one where it slightly exceeds one's current skill level. So they're talking about this modest overconfidence. I'm totally using the, I told you guys you can't use quotes, but in my review I use this as a quote, but don't you do it. Encourages people to take on challenges that promote skill development and self-efficacy. If you only tackle the task you're sure to perform well, there would be little opportunity for growth. But self-efficacy that exceeds or undershoots the current skill level is maladaptive. Unrealistically high self-appraisal sets you up for failure. Unduly pessimistic ones, unrealistically low expectations of what you think you can do, may prompt avoidance of challenges that you could actually do, constraining academic or career development. So this would be a really neat way to look at our results. I definitely want to cite this. And I'm going to refer, even though they're talking about Bandura's ideas, it's Lent, Brown, and Hackett up here who came up with, who described it as modest overconfidence. All right, highlight that for later. Just a couple more comments that I highlighted in this paper. None of this stuff was relevant, I didn't think, in glancing over it again. Okay, so just a few concluding thoughts here at the end. Several hypotheses attempt to account for the role of gender and racial ethnic factors. Okay, that's our target population. Both of these are actually posit the effects of gender and race ethnicity on career self-efficacy. Interests and goals may be mediated by experiential and contextual factors, such as opportunity structures and support systems. I've got to read more about that. Much of the research on women's and racial ethnic minority members' career development lacks a clear theoretical base. All right, so they refer to Hackett and Lent, 92. Encourage more systematic research. Okay, so that's future plans. And two more things here. They'll be necessary to conceptualize self-efficacy, outcome expectations, and goals in different terms. Hackett, Betts, and Doty identified a number of process skill domains. So this is sort of general self-efficacy, like leadership, which we measure, and communication, that might be generically important to career success. We think so too. Bandura's notion of coping efficacy as well. So that's another, these are two more references that I want to read. I can find them in the references section down here. All right, back to page 39. All right, finally, fine-tuning model for women, gender role, socialization experiences. So there may be something we can look into here in special populations where different types of efficacy are going to be necessary. Right, we're closing in on 15 minutes for this video, which I don't want to go over that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a database that will tell me where are the papers where this paper was cited as a reference. And we'll do that in the next video.